You can have charm. You can have charisma. But if your conversation habits are weak, people will feel it, even if they never say it. Every word you release builds or breaks your image. People don't dislike you for who you are. They dislike how you make them feel when you speak. So today, let's talk about the 5 silent habits that quietly turn people away, and how to destroy them before they destroy your influence. Your words shape how people measure your strength. Speak with precision, not noise. Every time you open your mouth, you tell the world exactly who you are, not by what you say, but by how you say it. Weak people talk to fill silence. Strong people speak to create impact. You can't fake it. People feel the energy behind your words. They sense when you're desperate to be heard, and they sense when you're speaking from a place of composure and control. The truth is, words are a weapon. Every sentence you say can either elevate you or expose you. That's why most people ruin their own image by speaking before thinking. They talk just to talk. They explain, justify, and defend themselves, not realizing that every unnecessary word chips away at their authority. Precision is power. When you speak with clarity, it shows that your mind is disciplined. It tells people that you think before you act, and that makes them respect you without you ever asking for it. There's a psychology behind this. People subconsciously measure your self-control by the way you use words. When your speech is calm, measured, and direct, it signals emotional intelligence. It tells people you're not driven by impulse or emotion. You're guided by thought. But when your speech is scattered, when you ramble, over-explain, or talk too much, people sense instability, and instability never earns respect. If you want to be taken seriously, start by mastering your mouth. Every time you speak, ask yourself, is this moving the conversation forward or feeding my ego? Most people talk because silence makes them uncomfortable, but silence is where confidence grows. When you're not afraid of pauses, when you can let silence hang without rushing to fill it, people feel your strength. They lean in. They start to wonder what you're thinking. And that's how influence begins. Not by shouting louder, but by saying less. Think about the most respected people you've ever met. They don't waste words. They don't explain everything. They don't need to. Their presence speaks louder than their mouth. Every word they choose feels deliberate. Every pause feels intentional. That's not an accident. It's control. And control commands respect. Your speech should have weight, not just sound. When you talk, make people feel your conviction. Speak from purpose, not emotion. Speak to deliver meaning, not validation. Every time you start talking, just to prove a point, you lose power. But every time you pause, collect your thoughts and deliver with clarity, you gain it. Precision also means honesty. Don't exaggerate. Don't dramatize. Don't manipulate with fancy words. Say what you mean and mean what you say. People trust straightforwardness. They can sense authenticity instantly. When you stop performing and start being direct, your words cut deeper. They carry truth, and truth is magnetic. Understand this. Powerful communication is not about impressing people. It's about leaving an imprint. It's about saying something so clear, so grounded, that people remember it long after the conversation ends. That's what influence feels like. Not loud, not flashy, just deeply real. Train yourself to observe before you speak. Listen more than you talk. Pay attention to people's words, tones, and reactions. The more you listen, the sharper your responses become. And when you finally do speak, you'll say exactly what needs to be said. Nothing more, nothing less. People are not drawn to noise. They're drawn to energy that feels stable, focused, intentional. When you master your words, you stop chasing respect. Respect starts chasing you. Because power doesn't come from dominating conversations. It comes from being the one whose silence makes others think, and whose words make them feel. So the next time you're about to speak, slow down. Let your mind catch up with your mouth. Choose precision over volume, substance over noise. Because every careless word drains your authority, and every measured word strengthens it. Speak like someone who knows their value, not someone trying to prove it. Stop over-explaining. Confidence doesn't need validation. When you keep explaining yourself, you're secretly asking for approval. You're telling people, please understand me, please agree with me. But confidence doesn't beg to be understood. It stands on its own, silent, calm, and self-assured. You don't owe anyone a detailed breakdown of your choices, your feelings, or your life. You made your decision. You know your reason. That's enough. Over-explaining is a habit that comes from fear. Fear of being misunderstood, judged, or rejected. It's what people do when they haven't fully accepted their own truth. They keep talking because silence feels unsafe. They think that if they explain more, people will finally respect them. But the opposite happens. The more you explain, the weaker you sound. The more you justify, the less people believe you. Real confidence is quiet. It doesn't chase understanding. It lets people think whatever they want because it knows truth doesn't need defending. You don't need everyone to get it. You just need to know where you stand. People respect that kind of energy, the kind that says, I said what I said. I meant what I meant. Think about it. When someone is truly powerful, they don't waste time convincing others. They state their point and move on. Their actions do the talking. But when someone keeps explaining, it shows insecurity. It shows that they value others' opinions more than their own clarity. And that's the quickest way to lose control of how people perceive you. There's a psychological truth behind this. Humans trust certainty. The moment you start defending your choices too much, you create doubt, even when there wasn't any. You think you're clarifying, but you're actually weakening your stance. Silence after a statement often speaks louder than paragraphs of justification. It says, I'm grounded. I don't need your validation to feel right. Learn to stop mid-sentence when you feel the urge to over-explain. Train yourself to sit with that discomfort. It's going to feel awkward at first because you're used to softening your truth so others feel comfortable. But confidence isn't about making everyone comfortable. It's about being okay when they're not. You don't have to prove your worth through words. You prove it through consistency, through results, through how you handle pressure. When you stop over-explaining, something powerful happens. People start taking your words more seriously. They lean in. They think, this person knows what they're talking about. Because clarity creates authority. You sound stronger when you leave room for interpretation. You sound weaker when you fill every gap with nervous chatter. The truth is, not everyone deserves your explanation. Some people just want to argue. Some want to poke holes in your confidence. And when you start explaining, you give them exactly what they want. Control. The best way to shut that down? Stop talking. Let them sit with their assumptions. Let silence expose their insecurity, not yours. Confidence doesn't need to be proven. It needs to be lived. Every time you choose peace over explaining, you build a stronger foundation within yourself. You learn to trust your judgment. You learn to be okay with being misunderstood. That's emotional maturity, the ability to stay calm while others question your choices. You don't owe anyone your reasoning for setting boundaries. You don't owe anyone a speech for saying no. You don't owe anyone a story for why you walked away, changed your path, or protected your peace. Your decisions don't need decoration. They just need to be yours. So from today, stop defending what you know is right for you. Speak once, clearly, firmly, then stop. Let your silence be the proof of your confidence, because confidence isn't about explaining your value, it's about embodying it. And when you finally stop needing validation, you'll notice something. People start giving it to you anyway. Silence will do more for your power than over-talking ever will. Say it once, mean it fully, and let the world adjust. Avoid gossip. Small minds talk about others. Powerful minds protect energy. The quickest way to weaken your character is to make someone else's name your topic. Gossip feels harmless at first. It feels like connection, like sharing secrets, like bonding over stories. But beneath it all, gossip is poison. Slow, silent, and destructive. The moment you talk about someone who isn't in the room, you lose integrity. You show that your energy is cheap, that your focus is fragile, and that your peace can be bought by drama. Strong people don't have time for that. They don't feed on the chaos of others. They protect their energy like it's gold, because it is. Energy is your power. It's what fuels your purpose, your growth, your vision. Gossip steals that power. It pulls your attention away from progress and throws it into the trash of meaningless talk. Every time you gossip, you waste energy that could have been building your future. There's a reason powerful people are selective with their words. They understand that conversation is currency. What you talk about reveals your values. If you spend your time dissecting other people's lives, you're signaling one thing: you're not focused on your own, and people notice that. The same people who gossip with you will gossip about you. That's the cycle you join the moment you open your mouth to judge others. Here's the truth. Gossip isn't about them. It's about you. It exposes your insecurities. When you talk down on others, it's usually to lift yourself up. But that's false power. It fades the moment they walk in the room. Real power doesn't need to tear anyone down. It stands tall, silently, and lets success speak. Think about it when you're doing well, when you're focused, when your mind is locked on growth. Gossip feels like static noise. It doesn't even reach you, because people who are building something don't care about distractions. You can't build an empire while talking about other people's ruins. Gossip also reveals a lack of emotional discipline. It's the mind's way of avoiding discomfort. Instead of facing your flaws or improving your situation, gossip offers a cheap escape. It makes you feel superior for a moment. But when the talk ends, you're still in the same place, just emptier. The energy you spent talking about others could have been used to evolve yourself. There's a kind of power in refusing to engage. When someone brings you gossip, stay silent. Change the subject. Smile and say, "I don't do that." Do that. That sentence is a line drawn in the sand. It shows boundaries, self-control, and strength. It tells people they can't pull you into negativity. And soon, they'll stop trying. You'll become known as someone who doesn't entertain nonsense. That's how respect grows. People with powerful minds guard their circles. They don't sit where gossip thrives, because gossip doesn't just harm others. It poisons the listener too. It fills your subconscious with judgment, comparison, and envy. Before you know it, your energy is heavy, your mood is off, and your motivation is gone. Protecting your energy means protecting your mental space. That's where your strength lives. Remember, what you say about others says everything about you. If you praise others, it shows you're secure. If you tear them down, it shows you're not. Strong people understand this. They lift others up even when they're not around. They know that speaking well of others creates a powerful reflection of who they are. You don't rise by pushing others down. You rise by focusing on your own climb. When you catch yourself tempted to gossip, pause and ask, "What does this add to my life?" If the answer is nothing, walk away, because the energy you save in silence becomes the strength you use to win. So avoid gossip, not because you're afraid of it, but because you're above it. Every time you refuse to speak ill of someone, you prove your discipline. You show that your peace matters more than someone else's drama. Small minds talk about others. Average minds talk about events. Great minds talk about purpose. Choose which one you want to be. Protect your energy. Protect your reputation. Protect your peace. Because gossip fades fast, but your integrity lasts forever. Control emotional leaks. Every outburst costs respect. Every time you lose control of your emotions, you hand your power to someone else. You might feel justified in that moment. You might feel angry, frustrated, or hurt. But the truth is simple. No matter how right you are, once you lose control, you lose respect. People stop hearing your message and start judging your reaction. Your emotion becomes the story, not your point. Emotional leaks happen when you don't know how to contain what you feel. You let irritation spill into your tone. You let disappointment turn into sarcasm. You let anger take over your body language. These leaks are silent, but they speak louder than your words. They tell people that you can't be trusted with pressure. And no matter how talented or intelligent you are, people don't follow those who can't control themselves. Control isn't suppression. It's mastery. It's knowing exactly how to channel what you feel without letting it destroy your presence. Everyone feels anger. Everyone feels pain. The difference between weak and strong is response. Weak people react. Strong people regulate. They feel everything but show only what's necessary. That's power. Calm under fire. When you stay calm in chaos, you become unforgettable. Because calmness isn't natural in emotional moments. It's trained. It's discipline. And discipline earns respect faster than passion ever could. Anyone can yell. Anyone can cry. But only the strong can stand tall, speak steady, and let their composure do the talking. There's deep psychology behind this. Humans associate emotional control with authority. When someone stays calm under pressure, our brains register them as leaders. It signals that they can handle stress, think clearly, and make rational decisions. That's why people who can control their emotions are trusted, respected, and remembered. Not because they feel less, but because they manage more. Emotional leaks usually come from ego. When you're attached to being right, when you can't stand being misunderstood, you react fast. You defend. You attack. But in trying to prove your point, you prove your weakness. You show that your emotions own you. The stronger move is to pause, to breathe, to say less, because silence in a heated moment isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Every time you feel that urge to react, remember this: you can't take words back. Once they leave your mouth, they start shaping how people see you. If your reaction is emotional, people will label you emotional, not strong, not wise, not stable. But if your reaction is grounded, calm, deliberate, people will feel your authority without you having to demand it. Learn to become the observer of your emotions, not the victim of them. When someone tries to trigger you, step back mentally and think, this is a test, because it is. Life constantly tests your composure. The world respects those who pass. Emotional control doesn't mean you ignore how you feel. It means you acknowledge it privately and process it wisely. You can feel deeply and still respond calmly. That balance is what separates maturity from impulsiveness. Control your tone, control your facial expressions, control your body language. That's how you control perception, and perception shapes reputation. Here's the truth. People remember how you behave under stress. They may forget your achievements, your words, even your success, but they never forget how you handled pressure. That one emotional outburst can erase months of respect, but one calm response can earn admiration that lasts years. Choose wisely. Your emotions are like fire. Controlled, they warm and protect you. Uncontrolled, they burn everything around you. If you can't master your emotions will master you. So train your mind to pause before reacting. Count to 3. Breathe. Think about the long-term effect before the short-term satisfaction. The goal isn't to be emotionless, it's to be emotionally intelligent. To know when to speak, when to stay silent, and when to walk away. The world tests you not to break you, but to reveal how deep your control runs. So hold your power. Don't let anyone pull a reaction out of you. Don't let their chaos become your mirror. Calm is your weapon. Composure is your armor, because in a world full of people who explode under pressure, the one who stays calm wins every time. Don't interrupt. Silence commands more authority than noise. Every time you interrupt, you send one message, that what you have to say matters more than what the other person is saying. You may not mean it that way, but that's how it lands. Interrupting doesn't show intelligence or confidence. It shows impatience. It shows lack of control. It shows insecurity dressed as eagerness. Powerful people don't interrupt. They wait. They listen. They understand that silence is not weakness. It's dominance. Because silence isn't empty. It's full of focus. It says, I'm in control of myself. It says, I don't need to rush. It says, I choose when to speak. And that kind of energy demands respect more than any loud voice ever could. When you interrupt, you're not listening. You're waiting to talk. You're not engaging. You're competing. You're trying to prove your value by inserting your thoughts faster. But confidence isn't in speed. It's in patience. Real confidence doesn't fight for the spotlight. It lets others speak freely, knowing its time will come. Here's the truth. When you stay silent while others speak, you gather power. You collect information, tone, emotion, and intention. You understand people better because you listen beyond words. You hear what they're not saying, and that knowledge becomes your advantage. Most people speak to respond. The wise listen to win. Interrupting is also emotional leakage. It shows you can't control your impulses. You're driven by the need to be heard, to correct, to prove, but control is respect. The one who can hold back their urge to interrupt shows emotional maturity. They show patience, and patience always looks powerful. There's psychology behind this. People subconsciously associate silence with confidence. When you pause before responding, it signals depth. It makes people lean in. It makes them wait for your words. That pause gives your voice weight. But when you interrupt, You ruin that balance. You tell others you're reactive, not grounded. Think of conversations like chess. Every move counts. The more you listen, the better your next move becomes. Interrupting is like playing without seeing the full board. You move too fast and you lose sight of the game. Silence gives you perspective. It helps you think clearly, analyze, and strike when it matters. People remember how you made them feel in conversations. When you interrupt, they feel dismissed. They feel unheard. And no one respects someone who makes them feel invisible. But when you listen fully, even to things you disagree with, people feel valued. That's how influence grows. Not through dominance, but through presence. Don't mistake silence for passivity. Staying silent isn't backing down. It's setting the stage. It's giving people enough space to reveal who they really are. Sometimes, if you let others talk long enough, they expose themselves. Their truth, their weakness, their patterns, all revealed in words. But if you interrupt, you cut that off. You lose insight because your ego needed to speak first. There's immense strength in restraint. Learn to wait until the other person is truly done. Not just when they pause for breath, but when they finish their thought completely. That's where your power lies, in listening so deeply that your response hits with precision. And when you do speak, people will listen, because you've earned it. Silence also disarms aggression. When someone speaks emotionally or attacks you verbally, don't match their tone, don't interrupt, let them finish, let them drain their energy. While they burn themselves out, you stand calm, steady, composed, and when it's finally your turn to speak, your voice, steady and clear, cuts sharper than any raised tone ever could. Interrupting breaks rhythm. It makes conversations chaotic. But silence builds rhythm. It makes every exchange meaningful. It makes your presence felt without you having to fight for it. People sense calm energy. It's magnetic. That's why the most powerful people in any room are rarely the loudest. They're the most controlled. So train yourself. The next time you feel the urge to cut in, pause. Take a breath. Let the silence do the work. The longer you can hold your composure, the more powerful your next word becomes. Your silence will speak louder than their noise. Remember this. Noise seeks attention. Silence earns it. Talking makes you part of the conversation. Listening makes you master of it. Don't interrupt. Let silence build your authority, word by word, moment by moment, because in a world full of people shouting to be heard, the one who listens rules. Never dominate conversations. Balance power with presence. When you dominate every conversation, you don't look powerful, you look insecure. People who constantly need to lead every discussion aren't showing confidence, they're showing fear. Fear that silence will expose them. Fear that others might outshine them. Fear that their worth depends on being heard. But true power doesn't chase control, it creates balance. Dominating conversations is a silent ego trap. It starts small. A few extra sentences, a few cut-ins, a few stories that shift attention back to you. But soon it becomes a habit. You start speaking not to connect, but to compete. And when that happens, people stop listening. They tune out, they smile politely, but inside, they're done. Because people don't remember how long you spoke. They remember how you made them feel. And no one feels respected when they can't get a word in. The strongest people in the room aren't the ones doing all the talking. They're the ones who make others feel heard. When you give others space to express themselves, you earn their respect. You become the person everyone wants to talk to because your presence feels calm, grounded, and fair. Power isn't about dominating energy. It's about directing it with precision. There's psychology behind this. People instinctively mirror the emotional tone of those they're speaking to. If you dominate, they withdraw. If you listen, they open up. If you control the air too much, they start protecting their thoughts instead of sharing them. And that means you lose influence. Because influence isn't about how much you say, it's about how deeply your words land. Every conversation is an energy exchange. If you take too much, you drain the room. If you give too much, you disappear. Balance is mastery, knowing when to speak, when to listen, and when to let silence do the talking. It's not about being the loudest. It's about being the most composed. Dominating conversations is usually driven by insecurity disguised as passion. You feel the need to prove your intelligence, your experience, your worth. But people who truly know their value don't have to remind anyone of it. They show it in how they move, how they listen, how they speak only when it adds meaning. Their restraint speaks louder than any monologue ever could. To balance power with presence, you must start valuing listening as much as speaking. Listening doesn't mean waiting for your turn to talk. It means absorbing, understanding, and observing. It means giving others the stage, not because you're weak, but because you're in control enough to share it. Listening sharpens awareness. It helps you respond with precision instead of reaction. When you speak less, your words carry more weight. When you let others talk, you learn what they need, what they fear, what they respect. That's how you lead, not by dominating, but by reading the room, guiding energy, and knowing when to step back. The most magnetic people are those who make everyone around them feel important. Every conversation is an opportunity to build or break connection. When you dominate, you push people away. When you balance power and presence, you draw them in. Presence isn't about talking, it's about being. It's the calm confidence that says, I'm here, I see you, I'm listening. That's what earns trust, that's what builds influence, that lasts beyond words. And remember, the goal isn't to be the center of every talk, it's to be the anchor. The one whose silence steadies the energy. The one who knows that not every moment needs their opinion. The one who saves words for when they matter most. That's leadership. That's control. If you catch yourself dominating, stop. Pull back. Ask questions instead of giving statements. Let others share their story. Observe how people light up when they feel heard. That's the power you've been chasing. Because the respect that comes from listening is 10 times stronger than the attention that comes from talking. When you balance power with presence, your energy changes. People stop seeing you as someone trying to control the room. They see you as someone who is the room. Your calmness becomes authority. Your silence becomes gravity. And your words, when you finally speak, carry the kind of weight that silence gave them. So don't dominate conversations. Lead them through balance. Let presence be your loudest voice. Because the real mark of strength isn't in how much you speak. It's in how deeply your stillness speaks for you. Be aware of tone. People forget words but never forget how you made them feel. Your tone is the invisible handshake of your soul. It tells people everything they need to know about you. Your confidence, your respect, your emotional control, long before your words ever reach their mind. People might forget what you said. They might even forget the topic of the conversation. But they'll never forget how your voice made them feel. That feeling becomes the memory of you. It becomes your reputation. And that's why your tone is one of the most powerful tools you possess. It can open doors or close them. It can build bridges or burn them. It's not about speaking louder. It's about speaking with intention. When your tone carries calm authority, you don't have to fight for respect. It arrives the moment you speak. Think about it. How many times have you tuned someone out not because of their words, but because of how they said them? A sharp tone, a hint of arrogance, or even condescension. It shuts people down instantly. On the other hand, when someone speaks with warmth, control, and purpose, you naturally lean in. That's psychology. The brain responds more to tone than language because emotion travels faster than logic. Your tone tells others whether they should defend themselves or trust you, whether they should listen or withdraw. Every conversation you have sends emotional signals. You're either making people feel safe or small, valued or dismissed. The choice lies in how you sound, not just what you say. A powerful tone doesn't come from trying to sound powerful. It comes from inner calm. People who are centered don't need to prove anything. Their voice reflects balance. Their pace is steady, their words are measured, and their tone is grounded. That's what makes others listen. Confidence is quiet. Insecurity shouts. When you speak too fast, it signals anxiety. When you raise your voice too often, it signals loss of control. But when you pause, when you let silence punctuate your words, when your tone stays composed under pressure, people feel your strength. It's magnetic. You don't dominate the room. You command it without trying. Here's a truth. Emotional discipline in your tone earns more respect than any argument ever will. You can have the right facts, the right logic, the perfect point, but if your tone is wrong, your message dies. People won't remember your reasoning. They'll remember your energy. They'll remember if your tone made them feel appreciated or attacked. Calm tones inspire trust. Aggressive tones trigger defense. You might win the moment but lose the person. And in leadership, relationships, and influence, That's a loss you can't afford. So train your tone like you train your body. Slow down before you speak. Match your tone to your message. Don't let your emotions hijack your delivery. Even in anger, stay measured. Even in conflict, stay composed. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you formidable. Because emotional control is real power. When your tone stays steady while others lose theirs, you don't just win the argument, you win respect. Remember, tone is your silent armor. People might challenge your words, but they can't challenge your calm. And calm people always win long term. Speak less, mean more. Mystery draws respect. Oversharing destroys it. Power doesn't live in how much you say. It lives in what you choose not to say. The loudest person in the room might get attention, but the quiet one, the one who observes, thinks, and speaks only when necessary, gets respect. Speaking less isn't about shyness or insecurity. It's about control. Every word you speak should carry weight. When you speak with purpose, people listen. When you talk too much, your words lose value. Silence creates gravity. It pulls people toward you because mystery is magnetic. The unknown always commands curiosity, and curiosity builds influence. Oversharing is the silent killer of power. It gives people access they haven't earned. It exposes your thoughts, your emotions, your weaknesses, all the things you should guard. The more people know about your private world, the more they can manipulate it. That's why emotionally strong people speak with filters. They don't explain everything. They don't justify themselves. They don't turn conversations into therapy sessions. They understand that self-control builds an aura of authority. You don't need to be mysterious on purpose. You just need to stop broadcasting your inner world to anyone who listens. People respect what they can't easily predict or define. Be that person. Look at the psychology behind it. The brain values scarcity. What's limited feels important. What's abundant feels ordinary. When your words are scarce, people value them. When you speak endlessly, people tune you out. This is how influence works. It's not built by constant talking. It's built by strategic silence. In any room, the one who listens more learns more. The one who speaks less reveals less. And the one who reveals less maintains the upper hand. When you overshare, you make it easier for others to categorize you, to label, judge, or underestimate you. But when you stay composed and speak selectively, you become unpredictable. That unpredictability commands respect because people can't place you. You're not obvious, you're intriguing. Silence isn't emptiness, it's strength disguised as stillness. It makes people wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you know that they don't. It creates presence without performance. Think of powerful leaders, skilled negotiators, or disciplined soldiers. They don't rush to speak. They calculate, they measure, they understand that silence can reveal more about a person than 1,000 words. When you master silence, you master attention. You'll notice how conversations shift in your favor. People will start to fill the silence with their own truths. They'll reveal more while you reveal less. That's strategic communication. That's how influence is built quietly. Speaking less also guards your energy. Every word you give away takes a piece of your focus, your time, your emotional bandwidth. Oversharing drains you because you start seeking validation for your openness. You start depending on reactions instead of reflection. The result? You lose emotional independence. But when you keep certain things to yourself, you stay centered. You don't need constant reassurance because your validation comes from self-understanding, not public approval. Silence becomes self-respect. You're not afraid of being misunderstood because your worth doesn't depend on being explained. And here's the truth most people never learn. Mystery isn't about being distant. It's about being intentional. It's the discipline of choosing when and how to reveal parts of yourself. It's emotional strategy. Speak less in chaos and you'll be the calm people turn to. Speak less in conflict and your composure will speak louder than words. Speak less in triumph and your humility will multiply your strength. The fewer words you use, the more space your presence takes. Every pause becomes a statement. Every silence becomes a boundary. Every unspoken truth becomes power in reserve. So speak less, mean more. Don't waste your voice trying to prove who you are. Let your actions, your tone, your energy do the talking. When you withhold the unnecessary, people lean closer to hear the essential. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving others power to define you. Mystery builds value. Oversharing destroys it. Protect your story, protect your silence. Because in a world that never stops talking, the one who speaks less rules.